Hi, so today we'll practice single leg crow or Ekapada Bakasana. And this posture has a reputation for being one of the most difficult arm balances. There's a lot going on. We've got arm strength, core strength, glute activation, and strength as well. And there are a few things that I found that really helped me unlock this pose. One was just removing fear, and quite honestly, removing fear came with getting a crash pad, so I recommend a bolster or a big pillow or a couch cushion or something like that. That way the fear of falling on your face is just taken out of the equation. The other is strength drills, and you can think of arm balances really as kind of a journey. Each day will look different. There's some days I can get into poses, there's other days that I can't. But there's always strength drills and things that we can do in order to really prime and prep the body for these postures. And then playing with a few different ways to get into the pose. So I'm going to show you a couple different ways to come into it today, and one may unlock quicker than the other. So you will need blocks, and like I said, I do recommend the crash pad. And there are a couple things or several things to think about as you work into this pose. So starting at your hands. Your hands are your feet in arm balances, so fingers are spread wide, grip with the mat. They're really your steering if you think about it. Arms as well, so instead of arms being splayed out, we wrap elbows in order to create a stable shelf. Shoulder blades, so if I retract and pull back, I squeeze my shoulder blades together. If I protract, I round my spine, and that's the shape that we want in our back in this arm balance. So we've got strong hands, we've got wrapped in elbows, we've got a protracted spine, we're pressing the ground away. And then in order to get the single leg back, you've got to activate your glute. So it's not a kick of the leg back. It's literally an activation where you squeeze right at the base where your glute and your hamstring meet, activates in order to extend or lift that leg depending on which entry point you're coming in. So I'll show you first a drill for moving into single leg crow out of crow. If crow's not in your practice, that's fine. I'll show you how you can drill with your toes on the ground. But if crow is in your practice, this is a really, really great drill just to repeat before you unlock your full single leg crow. So blocks will come about hip or shoulder distance apart. And I do like to use blocks for this. It just creates more space for you to move. Hands are still spread wide. Our fingers are spread wide. So I'm going to wrap my elbows in. I'm going to come into my full crow on my blocks. And as I do that, I shift my weight to one side, pull my knee in, and come back through center. Now you could rep and repeat on one side, or you can just alternate sides. So again, my weight's in crow, I shift to my right hand, pull my left knee in, and then you may or may not be able to get that knee back over to the elbow. When I first started doing it, I couldn't get my knee back to my elbow. So if crow's not in your practice, then you would literally still take that wrapped elbow, still gonna find the backs of my knee or back of my elbows. And that's the other thing to notice here. In full crow, when you practice, you might practice with your knees up super, super high. The other trick is that we want the knees behind, like just above the elbow. The higher you place your knee, the harder it is to pull it off the back of your arm to come into single leg. So if crow's not in your practice, you're still just gonna take that lean forward and you're gonna practice the weight transfer to one side, pull the knee in through center, knee through center, and just play with the shift with the toes on the ground. So to come into this from crow though, if you want to play after you've drilled, I'm going to take my full crow, I'm going to lean my weight to one side, and then I begin to lift the opposite leg. So I'm activating the glute to lift, and then eventually I can find the extension. So this is where the crash pad is actually really nice, because again, it just takes that fear of falling out of it, because what happens as you start to lift the leg is that you've got to lean forward in order to create the balance that you need. So there's a shift to one side and there's a lean as the leg extends. So to show you that on the other side, So I come into my crow. I'm going to lean into my right hand, activate and lift and kick it back. I was super wobbly on that side. So we'll try it on the other side. So come into crow, shift my weight, lean and lift and extend. And maybe you get a little bit more air time. It honestly depends on the day for me. So we'll try one more time this way. So again, come into crow, shift my weight, lean, extend that leg back, hold, and set it down. Now, you could pull the knee back into your elbow, or you can just set it down like I did. So that's from crow. And that one took me a little bit longer to unlock. And the way I did it eventually was just through that repetition of drills with just pulling that knee through center line and then playing with the glute activation to lift it. All right, so now I'll show you the second entry, which is actually how I unlocked this. And you could still use blocks if you wanted to, but this entry is from downward facing dog. So I'll take a little bit more narrow down dog. And you've probably taken a million times a 3-leg dog to a tricep tap and then back. And that's exactly the entry point for this. So with this though, again, your bullseye is right at the base. You can feel that divot at the back of your elbow. That is your bullseye for your knee. As your knee makes contact, the elbows wrap, bend. I've got to lean forward as I lift the back leg. Now that straight back leg, it's not a hop. The leg is locked out. So think super straight. I activate the glute in order to lift. So I'm going to come into my down dog, take my 3-leg, exhale, lean, 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 elbow or knee finds the back of that elbow, continue to lean, activate that back leg and lift and set it down. So we try the other side, right side, wrap the elbows, lean, 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 lift that back leg, set it down and come back. Now, if liftoff isn't happening, that's fine. What can you do? You can lift, you can tap. I skip that back foot in and I just practice leaning and skipping. Grip the mat with your fingers and eventually that back leg is going to float. So again, our balances are very much about repetition and play and just allowing your body to find the shapes. Mimic the shape, drill the shape, and eventually the pose will unlock.